So let's talk about some beholder magic. This idea, classic D&D monsters that as a player over the course of your D&D career, you're going to face. One of the things that we do in our gaming group that I have with D&D across multiple editions is when you join, you get a printed card. It's a hard card stock, and it has a number of classic D&D monsters printed on it with little icons. And then there's a little area to kind of punch out when you've defeated this monster. And in that moment, when you defeat a monster, you get to punch your card and you get the glory, the accolades for that. And this could be with any character that you play across the game with the group. It doesn't always have to be with the same character. And when you've completed your card, we've got a number of small little resin statues, D&D statues that we've painted up to honor that moment that you have defeated the 12 classic D&D monsters. The Beholder is one of them. And what I wanted to focus on in this D&D vlog is really exploring the Beholder from a tactical perspective and discuss about those eye stalks, discuss about those various rays and some of the different ways to utilize them and kind of how I utilize them in my D&D game. So the Beholder is really unique in that it's not so much the physical attacks. I mean, offhand, yeah, it's got some bite attacks. Not that I want to get bitten by it. And if I'm making some sneak attacks or some other close range attacks, naturally it's going to try and take a bite out of me. But the main focus are the eye stalks. Yes, it's got that anti-magic ray, that primary emanation, that kind of messes with things. But getting blasted by multiple eye stalks is interesting. And what we see in D&D, you do see monsters that have special abilities, not necessarily level drain or ranged attacks like a Bodak yelling at you and defeating your level drain, or a Manticore shooting some spikes. Like, you've got that type of stuff. But most monsters in D&D, especially AD&D, the ability to make magical attacks, you really see that at the higher levels. An example would be like dragons or various demons and off or otherworld monsters that have access to these magical spells and these magic abilities. That's really tough. The Beholder has this built in and can just blast away. They're not limited by memorization slots or certain breath weapons X times a day. That makes things very, very potent. Paralysis, damage, disintegration, all this crazy, crazy stuff. So from the perspective of a DM, how do you utilize it? Now, what I like to do with a Beholder, because again, this goes back to, this is one of the 12. This is one of the 12 monsters that if you beat, this is a big deal. This is on your way to D&D tabletop glory. The others being a appropriately sized red dragon, a lich, a vampire lord. So we kind of have these classic D&D monsters, and some at the lower levels also. It's not just all high-level wrecking crew. So with this, I don't want to make it easy, because you got to earn it, but I don't want it to be so impossible that it's not fun. We talked about this, and I pushed up to the channel. As a DM, when I take control of the monsters, I try to put myself, like, literally role play or war game in the role of the monster. What's the intelligence of the monster? What's the wisdom of the monster? What are the experiences of the monster? Are they aware that in this party, the way it is, the true threat is the magic user or the illusionist in the back, because they have the intelligence, they have the experience, or they're a spellcaster themselves? Or is it more of an animal instinct where, look, they're just going to bite the closest thing? So if the idea is like, look, I just burrow up out of the ground, I'm a monster, I burrow up out of the ground, I'm an Umber Hulk, and literally standing next to me 5 feet is the warrior, the fighter, heavy plate, shield, and a spear trying to poke me. And behind him is the magic user who's kind of hiding behind that. Tactically, the bigger threat's the magic user or the wizard, the arcane, yes. But if I'm playing that Umber Hulk, it just knows, well, I'm trying to bite something. This is the closest target, and it's trying to poke me with this spike or something. I'm going to go after that. So I try not to put my DM understanding into it. The Beholder's different though, right? It's got the intelligence. Look, it's running that Thieves Guild. It has access to arcane. It has magic. So it wouldn't be that out of place to play really tactical and say, look, I've got to blast this one with the fire. I've got to paralyze that because that'll pull over two teammates to support. And I'm going to try like crazy to disintegrate this person right there. That wouldn't be out of place. But I rarely do that. I will do that sometimes if we're going in to play D&D hardcore mode. Sometimes we do hardcore mode where it's veteran players. And one of the challenges is, of course, regardless of the systems, because I've been playing D&D for a long time with a lot of great friends and honored to do that. I'll see players, I'll have players where I'll start to describe the monster. And in their mind, I can see those gears clicking because they've been playing so long and they're dungeon masters. They're like, Monster Manual, page 27, armor class, -3, hit dice, 5, hit points, X, treasure type, M, number of attacks, 3, spell uses per day, this and this. Like, they know the stats. So if we're playing hardcore D&D, where we kind of know everything, I mean, we're still picturing it in our mind, then yeah, I am going to play super tactical and I'm going to target you, which wouldn't be out of place. But what I prefer with the Beholder is a little bit of controlled chaos, right? Maximus, are you not entertained? I randomize those eye stalks. I randomize them. When it makes the attack, of course, it will look to see what's in range. Let's randomize and see where they attack. Now, does this make the Beholder optimized? Does it make it a little bit easier to defeat? Yes, it does, because it's not going after the most optimized targets, but it makes earning that punch on your card that much more dangerous, because that eye stalk opens up the disintegration ray, and it's looking, and you're like, there's 8 of us here, 8 of us in range. That Beholder should disintegrate the wizard, but I don't know, 1 in 8 chance Fritz is going to roll that dice. It's an interesting way to put it to the random and create, in a good way, that tension, that excitement in that moment. So in terms of Beholder Tactica, there are the times I will play hardcore and I'll zap you with what makes sense, what the full intelligence, I mean, Beholder's probably more intelligent than me, the full intelligence of that monster. But for the most part, and I like to do this with multi-ability monsters, I like to randomize it up. And I let the players know it's randomized. The eyes are looking the first thing that can see. And of course, it has to see you, obviously, if you're hidden and things like that, or other aspects where you would be invisible or effectively invisible, then you're taken out of that. But if I can see you, let's randomize and see what can be blasted. So turning it over to my fellow D&D and DM enthusiasts. As a DM, how do you run a Beholder? We got to do it right. This mythology, this understanding, this thing we call D&D, Beholder is classic. Likewise, as a player, as part of a party, what's your game plan? Like, how do you approach such a monster that is not only has enough hit dice that even in D&D Modern as a dice bag can take it, but at the same time, it's got some significant magic attacks that, like, you can't take. You can't just ignore. You might fail those various saving throws or resistance checks. You got to make a decision fast, and you have to deal with it.